We'll begin with Emylisa Warrick. Emylisa Warrick is a poet, feminist, and native Kansan. During her undergraduate career, she read at the University of Central Arkansas and the University of Alabama. She is currently watching the World Series. Please welcome Emylisa.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me read, David. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be reading 2 poems and a prose piece tonight. This is called Will. This is how my children will be. They will build sandcastles out of snow. Their father will tell them that their hearts are made of fruit, red and sweet, easily bruised. They will run like swift, untamed breezes. They will smile with gaps in their teeth, and I will tell them that their skin was made from love, and from love their eyes bloomed. In fall, the plastic trees started shedding themselves, peeling back layer by layer strips of crepe paper from a wall. I planted love in the backyard, a frigid bulb ready to split open. You are not supposed to plant in the fall, you told me. I was stubborn and shook my head. In winter, I got drunk on spiced apples, biting into crunchy flesh, savoring juice on my tongue. How can you eat that wax fruit, you said. It's been on the table every winter we've lived here. I shrugged and moved a piece of apple in my mouth. I was waiting all winter. In spring, I threw the last apple core out. The air was warm and palpitating, expectant. It probably died in the winter, you said. I was always opening the window curtain, mimicking the movements of fishes opening and closing their mouths. In summer, I noticed full blooms on the plastic trees, green abundance, but I heard your footsteps pad away late nights. Every night you went for a drive and I shifted off the bed. I took long walks and the trees were my companions. Sometimes a breeze stirred my nightdress and I rubbed my cheek on the bark of old friends. In autumn, I heard your engine hum away and felt the leaves tremble. I sang softly to myself. I fled to the backyard and saw a sprout that wasn't there before. It was shiny and black like a music note. And this is a short story called Scenes. It was Halloween. I don't remember what year, but I knew there was a wildness to it, a wildness attached to the memory. My friends Sarah and Abby were with me. Sarah was dressed as something ephemeral and white, not a goddess, something less concrete and definable, a floating white dress with sleeves that could be mistaken for a wingspan. She wasn't a bird, no. Abby was dressed in black, a cat maybe, but that sounds too typical. I view her as something like a mime, something a little sinister, derived from the impenetrable silence and bright, eager eyes. And I was dressed like something from a masquerade, although I don't recall wearing a mask all the time. The mask had feathers, black and the green-blue tint from peacock feathers, a black dress, and a crazy face. A stupid, grinning, crazy face. But it was Halloween, so maybe we all had that. I remember our goal was to do some bar hopping that night, to float or leap from place to place, transient beings that lived off of motion, but not destinations. We went to a place called Mirth. It was a coffee shop. I remember we sat by the windows. It was steaming inside, and the condensation made it impossible to see clearly out. The condensation formed all over the glass, and I imagined the moisture, not inside or outside, but in between the plates of glass. All those images outside seemed distorted, and I wondered if we looked the same. We were drinking espresso out of tiny cups. They clinked occasionally when we toasted or when we put them back on their little saucers. I remember laughing a lot and barely keeping a conversation. We were probably tipsy, or maybe even a little drunk by then, but it doesn't matter. Abby, why don't you speak? Silence. I giggled. It's because you're mine, that's why. I laughed crazily and Abby smiled very slowly. It was almost maniacal how her red lips parted and exposed small, even white teeth. Her eyes were bright. They were eager to do mime tricks, I imagine. The silence she imposed on herself imposed on Sarah and me as well. And then we were loud and drunk, and it was revelry, and here was Abby saying nothing. Sarah hiccuped and slurred her words. This quietness really suits what you are. We laughed even more, the clink of teacups, the swaying back and forth. The walls melted, sliding onto the floor like hot, molten lava. Even that damn condensation on the glass glided slowly down like sweet, clear honey. And these people that were there even as many as I thought? They became blurred sketches of what they really were, superimposing themselves on the walls. The color of the room glowed like a candle. Let's leave, I said. I snorted, and the trio of us laughed. We left mirth in a train, languid and loose from all the liquor. Our brains fluttered from the caffeine. The bell tinkled, and the night air caressed us like a cool hand. I took the mask off my face and breathed in for a moment. It was delicious. I shivered. We weren't wearing any coats. Abby and Sarah were laughing at this when we decided to go to Henry's bar. We arrived there, but strips of crepe paper ghosted the floor, and the hardwood was almost clean. The lights were dim, but the place was empty. A black rope indicating the party area felt abandoned with nobody to hold back. The disco ball was turned off, and a man was sweeping in the back of the room. The Halloween celebration was over. It's over, the man said. Go home. I felt sad upon hearing this and confused. It was only midnight, wasn't it? Or was it 2 a.m.? I couldn't remember. Abby and Sarah were disappointed. Downtown parade, come watch and see, join in the festivities. A loudspeaker was on. We instantly perked up and walked down the sidewalk to see the parade on Massachusetts Street. People were starting to line the street. Luckily, we squeezed into the front row, but the road was still black and empty. There was a roadblock perpendicular to us in the street with white and orange stripes. Behind it were 3 teenage boys. 2 were jumping up and down, 1 was swaying back and forth, an iron mask over his face. I heard screaming. Get them out, get them out. I saw a car speeding towards the roadblock. It was small and quick and closest to our side. Get out, get out. There was screaming and laughing. The car was speedily coming, and you could see that it would be possible for it to fit between the curb and the roadblock without hitting any of the boys, if people could just tell them to stay where they were. Quick as a flash, one of the boys jumping up and down pushed his swaying friend into the path of the car. The car started to slow, but we all heard the pistol-sharp sound of the boy's head hitting the windshield. He fell back, and his body rearranged itself into a chalk outline. The boy who had pushed him was held back by police. His face was glazed, his eyes happy and muted. He didn't know what was going on. His limbs were limp. A policeman walked up to the broken boy, the dead boy. We all knew he was dead. It was sickening, but we still couldn't fully comprehend what was happening. The police pulled off the boy's mask, and he was just as pale as the other 2. The mask had pressed its marks into the boy's face. It crushed its imprints onto him until deep cuts formed. There was blood around his head, a circle growing like a halo. At least he's with Jesus now, the policeman said. Thank you.